Hello folks, friends and movie lovers, welcome back to the channel and to the latest instalment of the Movies in Review. The movie I have to review for you all today is a 1994 screen adaptation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Now I'm not totally sure what I think of this movie. I've read the book before while studying for my A-levels at college in English literature, and while it was engaging enough, I thought that the rather flowery language of the time did somewhat diminish the horror aspects of the story. It's also interesting to see how many different incarnations and spin-offs and reinterpretations of the Frankenstein story there are out there. What a lot of people don't seem to realise though, certainly those who are unfamiliar with the story, is that Frankenstein is not the name of the entity, the life form that was created by the Doctor, but the name of the actual Doctor himself that created him. However, in relation to this movie, directed by and starring Kenneth Branagh in the lead role of Victor Frankenstein, I'm still not totally sure. I enjoy watching the movie when it's on, and find it more effective at the scare factor than the original story it's adapted from. One point of criticism would be to highlight that some of the chapters in the story were reordered for the movie, meaning those familiar with the original story will remember the sequence of events happening differently to in the movie. This isn't the first time that movies have reordered famous literary works when adapting to a movie. Baz Luhrmann's 1996 adaptation of Romeo and Juliet starring Leonardo DiCaprio placed a key quote from Tybalt at the end of the party Romeo gatecrashes rather than where Shakespeare originally had it. And how can one put up thy sword, as spoken by Benvolio in the opening act, when they are pointing guns at each other? Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is why I sometimes struggle with movie adaptations for famous works of literature. However, I digress. With regards to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the more I see the movie, the more it grows on me. That's not to say that it's my favourite, but I wouldn't switch it off if I knew it was on, and I would at least make a point of watching it. One of the appeals for me is in the perception of it being one of the earliest entries to the science fiction genre that I've read. I think there would be an appeal across the genres because for me it is as much science fiction as it is horror, which would give it a much wider appeal. It is a story of a doctor who uses the loss of a close family member as an inspiration for the study and practice of medical science, with a view to finding ways of stopping people from dying, eventually settling away on an idea that wouldn't necessarily stop death, but would in fact create life. What we see is a reproductive cloning before it became a scientific practice in the later part of the 19th century. In that regard, Mary Shelley was perhaps far ahead of her time. With Frankenstein, she puts forward a case in favour and against the practice of cloning. We are presented both with the benefits and applications of artificially creating new life, and the fears and concerns around doing it. I think that this translates well in this adaptation of the story. Something else that I think translates well in this adaptation is in the way we are encouraged to consider the morality and ethics of the situations and what our responsibilities are within them. We could argue that Frankenstein approached his research and experiments from the ethical standpoint of wanting to preserve life. One point he makes is in the prospect of performing transplants, replacing sick parts or dying parts of a living person with a healthy donor body part that can be reanimated. However, in successfully creating an artificial life, Frankenstein had a moral responsibility to that new life, something that he abdicated out of fear and abhorrence for what he had done. Similarly, the conduct of the life form that he created would seemingly be morally, ethically responsible for his actions and conduct. What the movie is really good at is portraying the debate as to who is ultimately responsible in that regard, Frankenstein or his creation. To me, it is impressive that there is so much in this movie and so much has translated across from the book to the movie. Overall, while I would say that it isn't my favourite movie, I would say that I quite enjoy it. I think it's one of those movies that the more I see it, the more I have time to reflect on it, the more I like it. I liked seeing Richard Briers for a brief appearance in this movie. It made a change to see him doing a serious role as opposed to his role in The Good Life, which is the only thing I remember seeing him in. Equally, it was good to see John Cleese doing a serious role as opposed to the comedy he is so famous for. As good as they are in their respective comedy roles, I think they are amazing serious actors. I also thought Kenneth Branagh was good in this movie and made a vast difference to the role he would go on to perform as Gilderoy Lockhart in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which I don't think suited his talents. For the Harry Potter fans out there, you'll even notice Helena Bonham Carter, also known as Bellatrix Lestrange from the Harry Potter movies, and Robert Hardy, also known as Cornelius Fudge, Minister for Magic from the Harry Potter movies. Those of you who are comedy fans will have also noticed Celia Imrie, who you may remember from Dinner Ladies. And that's all I've got for this one, folks. Thank you so much for listening to the end. Please remember, if you haven't already done so, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons and the bell icon for notifications and updates when more reactions and reviews get uploaded. My name is Simon and this is the Movies in Review. Thank you for listening.